Since uploading videos of fully animated songs in Guitar Hero, I've had quite a few questions asking how to add animated lip syncs to songs. So today, I want to address that and show you exactly how to make facial animations in Guitar Hero. You will need a phone, either iPhone or Android with AR support. For iPhones, this is any iPhone 10 or higher, and for Androids, please consult your phone's specifications. To begin, you'll need two pieces of software, BlendarTrack and Blender version 3.6 or lower, as this guide relies on plugins that do not work with the current version 4 and above. All needed plugins and files can be found in the description below in a zip file. BlendarTrack is both an app for Android and iOS, as well as an add-on for Blender. It is the main program used for capturing your facial expressions. Unfortunately, the app is no longer available officially on the Apple App Store. However, it has been backed up and can be sideloaded. I have placed links to the apps in the description. Sideloading isn't in scope of this tutorial, so if you did not get the app before the takedown, please sideload the app before continuing this guide. If you're using Android, it is still available on the Android Play Store, but the APK file is also available in the description below. The BlendarTrack plugin for Blender is a collection of Python files for use with Blender to import data recorded from the BlendarTrack app. Blender is a free and open source computer graphics application that we'll be using to import facial capture data from BlendarTrack and export them to the skeletal animation (SKA) file that the Guitar Hero games expect. As mentioned earlier, version 3.6 or lower is required for this guide to work. I've included a link to version 3.6 in the description. You can also download the Steam version, go into Properties, and select version 3.6 LTS in the beta section to ensure you are using the correct version. I've also provided a Blender project file in the description, which consists of a base model that can be used to import facial animation data. This is the file that ends in .blend. There is a similar version on the World Tour Definitive Edition server, however my version has a few scripts bundled in which will make exporting the data a lot faster. Finally, in addition to the BlendarTrack plugin mentioned earlier, you will also need a suite of tools called GH Tools to be able to export the imported motion capture. As mentioned before, all links are in the description. Before we do any facial capturing, we need to add the plugins to Blender. Open your Blender application and click anywhere in the background to make the initial screen disappear. Next, click on Edit and go to Preferences. Click on Add-ons and then the Install button at the top. Find your BlendarTrack plugin zip file and double-click it. Ensure they are enabled by searching for BlendarTrack in this screen. Next, install GH Tools in the same way by clicking Install, locating the GH Tools zip file, and ensuring it is enabled by searching for GH Tools. There should only be one entry. You can now close Blender while we go to the BlendarTrack app to motion capture our face. Hey, Real Addy Mills here. I just want to interject the tutorial and give a small piece of advice for the best lighting when you use BlendarTrack. You want to make sure that your lights in the background are dimmed, and that if you have a light source in front of you, that you make sure it's not blocked, so that your face is as bright as possible. Now, you should be able to record using BlendarTrack and have it capture all of your expressions. In addition, if you have a tripod for your cell phone, be sure to use it, because keeping your hand as still as possible will get you the best results. Hey everyone, so now we're in the BlendarTrack app and it's telling me to come a little bit closer, so you want to put your face in as close as possible to be able to capture your facial animation. Now, before we do any of the facial capturing, we are going to change a few settings which can be found in the button up here. So I'll just tap this, and what you're gonna want to make sure is that the following settings apply. Yeah, record video is on, track point cloud is on, the cloud density is at 100%, and if you're using an iPhone, that you want your resolution at 1920 by 1080 at 60 Hertz. This is what I found to be the optimal resolution for recording, and it will reduce in the least lag, in my opinion. If you're running an Android phone, you can try this setting, but if it ends up stuttering a little bit, feel free to lower it, as we can adjust for it in Blender later. Finally, we also want to make sure that the video bit rate is set to 8-bit. Now that we're back in the app, we can press the big red button to start recording our face. And I'll give a small sample. So now my face is recording, and I'm going to stop it again, mainly because if you have a facial animation shorter than 10 seconds, you can actually preview it in the app, as I'll do right now. So this is what I just recorded. Now, one tip that I would like to offer is that you'll want to exaggerate your movements as much as possible. Because the avatars in the game are going to be moving around a lot, it'll be hard to notice very subtle lip sync like this. Make sure that you're moving a lot because it will show up less exaggerated in game. One more thing is that you'll want to keep your recordings to about 30 to 45 seconds maximum, because BlendarTrack can get a little bit unstable if you decide to record after this. However, Guitar Hero can handle recordings of up to 60 or 70 seconds, but that is the absolute max. After you finish recording your parts, you can click the folder icon to select your recordings and save them to your phone. I opt to save them to my iCloud so I can download them on my PC later, but you should be able to get the files using a lightning cable or USB cable and plugging it into your computer as well. We'll now import to Blender. Open up the template linked in the description by going to File, Open. You'll be greeted by this bald fellow. He will be the test subject for your facial animations. As you should have the plugins installed already, click on the Blender tab on the right side of the screen. You can select your facial capture file at the top. The template should have all settings predefined, but just make sure the settings look the same as on my screen here and click on Import Data. The app may freeze for a little bit, and once it gives control back to you, it won't look like much has happened, but Blender actually has imported the data. If you pan down the model, you will see a face on the ground. Side note, if you're not recording your facial animations at 60 Hz, please make sure you time stretch your animations. If you do not do this, the animation will not play properly in the game. To time stretch, click the Format button on the right-hand side. This button looks like a printer printing an image. In the Frame Range section, there is a Time Stretching section. Set the old frame rate to your phone's frame rate, for example 25, and set the new frame rate to 60. The new frame rate should always be 60, as that is what GH Tools expects it to be in. We'll now link that face to the model by clicking on the GH Tools tab and clicking Link BlendarTrack Rig. This will bring the face data from earlier in line with the model's face and sets the play marker to the last frame recorded. If you press space now, the model will animate based on your performance. Feel free to adjust the end frame if there's too much space at the end. Place your marker where you want the animation to end and enter in that frame number as the end frame. Please make sure it's an even number. Next, go to the Scripting tab. If this tab is not present in your Blender, click on the plus icon, go to General, and add a Scripting tab. If you do not see the scripts as shown on my screen, locate the 3 Python scripts that were included with the Blender template and import them into your project by clicking the Open Text button that looks like a folder. Once all 3 scripts are imported, go to the one named Prepare Model and click on Run Script. What this does is it first adds some restrictions to the model's eye, jaw, and lip bones to prevent weird poses and clipping that may have come up during the animation import. Next, it grabs the animation data, selects the bones in the face to apply to the animation, and bakes the animation to the bones so that it'll export properly. It also puts Blender into object mode, which is required for exporting. After it finishes, your SCA file is ready to export. If you try to play the animation now in Blender, it'll look really exaggerated, but do not worry, this is not how it'll look in-game. This is simply a result of Blender applying both the initial imported animations as well as the baked ones to the model. When exporting, it'll only grab the baked animations. To export, go to File, Export, GH Tools, Neversoft Animation. Create a folder to house all of your song's SCA files. I just call mine SCA files, and place them near your other song files. As for this file, I recommend using the following naming convention. If the file is for the lead singer, end the file with a number. Otherwise, end it with a number and the letter B. This is mainly for Guitar Hero 3, because when compiling for it, the lead singer's animations must end with a number, and the guitarist's animations must end with a number and the letter B. If you're only concerned about using these files for World Tour or above, you can name them whatever you like, as long as there are no spaces. Now we need to sync the audio to the facial capture. First, go to the Video Editing tab in Blender. Once again, if it's not present here, you can add a Video Editor tab by clicking the plus button, going down to Video Editing, and clicking Video Editing in the submenu. If you do not see the 3D model in the Video Editing view, click the Editor Type button and click 3D Viewport. You may need to adjust the angle to properly see the face. You can do so with the buttons on the right-hand side of the viewport. Next, go to the Playback drop-down menu at the bottom of your screen and make sure the Sync is set to Sync to Audio. If you do not, it will be impossible to sync the audio to the animation. Now, import your audio. Drag in the audio that you will be using in your custom. This needs to be the audio you are using to compile the song with, i.e. the one with added space at the beginning if needed. Place the audio on any channel in Blender, and once imported, go to the right-hand side of the screen and display the waveform. This will help in syncing the audio to the animation. In the time category, enter in the frame that you approximately started recording your face in BlendarTrack. To get a frame, grab the time in seconds and multiply by 60. Enter this value as a negative in the start box. You can then press play to see how it lines up. If it's not in sync, you can pause, move the audio file by clicking and dragging until it lines up. Once you feel confident the animation matches the audio, take a note of the start time in frames and go into your charting software. I'm using Reaper, but this should work for Moonscraper 2 as long as you can add text events. If you are also using Reaper, go to your project settings, then the Video tab, and make sure the frame rate is set to 60. Now, go into the MIDI track of the instrument you want to give this animation to, and press Ctrl J to bring up the jump field. Now, to enter in frames, type in 0, 0, 0, and then enter in the frame start time in Blender. Now, make sure that your MIDI track is selected by right-clicking and dragging inside the MIDI track, as it can sometimes get deselected when using the jump command. Next, press Ctrl T to insert a text event. Type in left bracket, band underscore play facial anim, space, and then the name of your SCA file without any extension. Then close it with a right bracket. Press OK to insert the text event. And that's everything. Now, when you compile your song with the toolkit and this MIDI file, an event will be added to your song's performance array to add the facial animation event. As long as the SCA files were included upon compilation, the instrument you chose will animate. For more information on compiling a song, a text guide is available on my site and can be found in the description below. A video may also come in the future on how to compile using the toolkit. Please subscribe to get updates on that.